What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. This video is also brought to you by My Music. Since we don't do any sponsorships here on the channel, I'll go ahead and shill that out because I put a new single out called By Your Side very recently, and I would appreciate if you check it out. It's available streaming on any platform that you listen to. Thank you so much for the support. Okay, guys, happy 1 year to Matt. Yaba P. Matt made it through his first year of being CEO of Splinterlands. Now, I'm going to do my 5 biggest takeaways, but there's going to be 2 parts to this. And no, it's not there's 10 takeaways. I'm actually going to frame this very differently. This first video is going to very much focus on the perspective and the not the change, but the perspective and the philosophies that I think are very different now compared to where we were previously. And the second one will be actually focused on the tangible changes that happened within the economy and the game over the past year. So this is just part 1. Keep an eye out for part 2. That'll probably be out over the next couple of days, or maybe tomorrow if I have some time. But again, this is just part 1, and this is just focusing on like the mindset and the perspective and just really the culture change that I've noticed, right, from Matt taking over as CEO. So let's go ahead and dive in. Again, just want to wish Matt happy 1 year on this, and then we'll go through it, all right? So number 1, I have really appreciated Matt's flexibility on his approach and the policies around the game. Now, this has been a bit of a double-edged sword. So I don't want to say like, it's been great all the time, but I appreciate even when it's not great, right? Because it shows that Matt is willing to take a critical look at the game economy and see what is best overall. So, for example, because I'm sure you're wondering, like, what am I upset about? It's vouchers, right? So we had a situation last year where I remember he said something like, make vouchers scarce again, right? I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want to see, right? Let's do something to make vouchers scarce again. And then midway through this year, there was a lot of with Crypto Eater's proposal, Matt kind of came out and said he doesn't think vouchers should even be a thing. So again, that was a little jarring for me because like 6 months previously, Matt was like, let's give vouchers utility. And then to come to find out that he's always felt that vouchers really didn't have any place in the game economy. And here's the thing. I'm not trying to harp on this. I just know people are going to ask me, why am I upset? And I'm not even upset about it. It's like, I think actually what has happened because of that conversation, right? Because of that conversation, we have gotten to a place now where vouchers actually have streamlined utility. And this is the best situation overall, I think, for everybody, ideally, right? So that nobody feels burned or feels whatever. Like, we finally got the voucher shop. I don't think it's added too much on the team. Matt seemed to be okay with it. The team seemed to be okay with it. And now like we're in a much better place because of it. So it comes down to that flexibility of, right, being able to, say, to have an opinion one way to then change your opinion, or at least reveal what your true opinion was, but then actually listen to the community, right? Another big one is bots. Like, we've talked about bots. We've talked about extraction from the game. And, Matt took a much more hardline stance than his predecessor did, right? And again, I admire where both Aggie and Matt were, right? So even just a couple of years ago, because I like the decentralized nature and the decentralized approach that they were taking. But the game economy, the economy changes were not happening quick enough to really reduce and remove and kind of take a broader look at and really just clamp down on a lot of the extractive behavior that was happening. So, from the modern bot ban, which happened, I guess, last year, right? That is something that Matt kind of championed from the beginning. He's like, let's give it a shot. Even though I don't agree with it, let's give it a shot. So that even started before his time as CEO. But even since then, right, he's gone through and tried to find ways to reduce exploits, to reduce things, and even if that means making things a little bit more centralized, which again, I'm not the happiest about, but at the end of the day, I understand, like, this is a game. We need to make it sustainable. The company needs to be sustainable. Like this, we've had to have some kind of flexibility on that. And not to say that previously Matt and Aggie weren't flexible, but they did take a more hardline stance and were trying to create the experience. And when it wasn't happening that way, I think Matt has listened to the community a little bit more and had a little bit more just flexibility in his approach. And again, before anybody's like, oh, Matt versus Aggie, I'm not trying to get into that. I think whoever had been in CEO hopefully would have started listening to the community a little bit more. I think Matt's done a great job of that. I think Matt's also done a good job of pushing back on a lot of the things that the community wants, because we're collectively smart on a lot of things and we're collectively dumb on a lot of other things, right? There's not a lot of long-term thinking for a lot of the folks and a lot of the comments that come out. So I appreciate the fact that Matt has engaged with the community and tried to be more flexible in a lot of different approaches. I mean, for example, look at unbinding the Soulbound cards, current Soulbound cards. That's probably the latest example of like, hey, that kind of went against what he was going for, but people voted for it, right? And it's still ultimately, the way that it's designed with the 20x multiplier, which is kind of in line with what the proposal wanted. It still provides a net positive to the ecosystem overall. So again, that's probably one of the biggest things, and this is not in any particular order, right? But that's one of the biggest things. One of the takeaways for me is that Matt has a lot of flexibility. I think he and the team, right, all together are keeping their ears to the ground and really trying to figure out what's the best way forward with the people that are left, because that's important, right? Yes, a lot of people left, but the people who are here, right, that are really trying to push this game in the best direction. And I think being collaborative about it with the team, with the community, with the DAO is really the best way forward. So that's number one. Number two, to me, this is abundantly clear. I know we get so many comments that, in my opinion, are either misinformed or just trolling, that talk about, oh, the company's just trying to make a lot of money, right? The company's just trying to, rug the entire system. I think many things over the past year have actually shown the opposite. Yes, have there been high prices added on certain things? Absolutely. But you have to follow the money. Where is the money going? Because most of the time, it is not going to the team. So Matt has actually had a very large focus on the game economy. You can go all the way to, well, land doesn't count because we already knew that was going to be big, but like Rebellion and the way Rebellion was designed, that was the first major thing that he had where, it was like a sweetheart deal for the DAO. DAO paid, I think it was like $250K. Don't quote me on that. Something like that. And it was a revenue share, right? So half of the DEC is getting locked out of the, locked up in the DAO and circulated out, and the other half is going to the team. So they're giving up, right? They got $250K, which I don't even know if that's like a month of expenses or how far that goes. But that was the first way in which he was trying to do something different here to work with the DAO. Since then, right, we've had many different things that are added in, such as the Wild Season Pass. We've had promo cards, right? There's all these different types of areas in which, maybe fees have been added. People are not necessarily happy about them, or even like, unlocking of Soulbound cards, but the company's not making anything from that, right? This is all about getting DEC back to peg, getting the flywheel started. And so I think anybody who's looking at that and saying, well, the company's just trying to line their pockets, that's a disingenuous statement. It's either an ignorant or a disingenuous statement. I don't want to attribute malice to it, but you either don't know what you're talking about, or you're actually saying something that's incorrect, even though you know, and you know that it's incorrect, right? So again, I'm not calling out anybody specifically. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of those comments around, and to me, the evidence overwhelmingly lines up with the fact that Matt has put a major focus on the game economy over any kind of profits for the company, right? The company has run very thin and very lean over this past year, probably pushing, the entire team to the brink. So I appreciate their efforts. And now here we are in a situation where, once again, he did a deal with the DAO, right? The DAO pays 600 million DEC, which is under peg at the moment. So keep that in mind, right? And it's been under peg for a while. The DAO pays 600 million DEC, and the hope is that there's enough demand to lock it up and essentially be a net positive for the game economy. And again, this is across. Let's not focus on the first phase. Hopefully, there will be, again, going back to the first point. Hopefully, there will be flexibility on the approach, and maybe the upcoming phases will have different pricing, different opportunities, different offers, and we do get to that point where we cross the 600 million, right? So there's demand, there's volume, and again, once again, this is something where it's just like the team wasn't trying to sell cards and then pocket the money, right? Like it was, hey, we want X amount, and we believe that it can do, X plus amount, right? Now that remains to be seen, but we're getting close. So we'll evaluate that afterwards. But it's a different model than, hey, we're just going to sell to you guys. And when we sell, actually even go back to the halving event, right? They wanted to do this for the halving event, and the community said no. So then they just sold the cards. Like they were still trying, even at that point, to really make it about the game economy and not about the profits. So that has been a huge part. And now the fact that, Matt's talking about a potential mini set or the next set or selling a bunch of things, to make the company, sustainable from a revenue standpoint, I think that's okay. Like, games and game studios are supposed to be, they're supposed to make money. Like, that cannot be something that they just do, don't do for long periods of time. To Matt's point, Rebellion has been the only thing that's been on sale, and most of the community, for whatever reason, myself included, have not bought into it. Right. And again, a lot of people here have been burned. So there's been a lot of focus on, what is to come. And that's probably going to be the next point here. But overall, I don't think it's bad for the company to sell things. And if people want to buy it, make it, right? Like, if there's a demand for these things and people are willing to pay for it, make it. Serve your customer base, right? I don't know. I don't see anything particularly wrong with that. Okay, number 3. So getting into this now. This is something that Matt was very clear about at the beginning of the year. And I'm putting it in very explicit terms and probably inflammatory terms. But he did say this at the beginning of the year and asked for patience from the player base. There was going to be a focus in 2024 on creating a better overall player experience, particularly catered to new players. So this entire year, so many people have become disenfranchised and upset and discouraged, right? But the truth is, you're not getting heard because the focus has been on new players. And this has been, like I said, told and explicit since the beginning of the year. Now, I made a video about this specifically, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago to really highlight this point for people, because I think a lot of folks are just saying like, hey, when are they going to do something for me? They don't care about current players. And the truth is, I'm not being harsh, but at this moment in time, they don't. They don't, because it's about bringing new players in. And if you're being honest with yourself, if you're here and wanting the future success of this game, then you understand putting the needs of the new players coming in higher than your own needs will actually lead to the success of the entire project, which benefits you. Okay? So yeah, it sucks. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but that's kind of where we're at. And I'm not trying to sit here and justify the team's actions or whatever. I'm literally doing this selfishly from my own perspective. There's a lot of things that I want. I want upgrades to tournaments. I want upgrades to guilds. I wish Land 2.0 was here, not coming in 2025 or 2026. I want all of these things. But guess what? They cannot happen if the team cannot even make it to next year. So creating a system in which new players come in as the easiest way to soak up all of the assets, that is the best way forward. And as much as it sucks, again, as a player who's been here for a couple of years now, I understand. I'm willing to compromise. These last couple of months have been awful, with players selling out, with bot farms leaving, the token prices and asset prices completely going down the drain. But I'm taking a broader view here. I'm understanding that at this moment in time, and for the majority of this year, it has been about new players. And there will come a time when current players are, there will come a time where, the new players become current players, and then we focus in on adding all of these other features. But that has been the case. And my guess is that, not to make this, well, let me reframe this, right? Like, we always want to be growing. We want this game to be growing forever, ideally, right? So the idea is there will always be a focus on new players coming into the game. Right now, the balance is completely out of whack, but it's expected because it was told to us. New players are getting a majority, if not all of the attention. But at some point, that's going to balance out. Now, it's never going to go all back to current players, but new players will always have some kind of, the focus for bringing in new players will always have some kind of resources and time and management attached to it, right? At this point in time, we just need to get through it. And hopefully we are towards the end. I know that there's been a lot of delays. We thought this might happen by the middle of the year. Then it got pushed to like end of Q3, which is coming up at the end of the month. I don't know what the current status of is. Maybe it gets pushed again, which will absolutely suck. But that is the approach for now until further notice, right? So that's number 3. Number 4, this is a big one, right? Committed to removing bots and extractors. And I talked about this in many of the other points already, but I would say that Matt implementing the Wild Season Pass, something that came out of nowhere. Like, I really had not even thought about that. And the first time, I remember this, similar to other folks, the first time I thought about that, I was like, oh my God, pay to play, right? It didn't make sense to me until it did, right? Until looking at at Wild and seeing and listening to the conversations that I was having with other people about how, oh yeah, you could just farm soulbound cards in, you know, a bunch of accounts and then literally earn forever if you wanted to. So creating the the game, creating the Wild Season Pass and designing the game in a way that does make it more sustainable, right, in the future. And again, taking a much more hardline stance on removing a lot of bot behavior and extractors. So, for example, I mean, there have been several warnings from the team now where if you're caught botting, or if you're caught doing any kind of, you know, black hat things, especially in modern format, you will get banned, right? And again, your account won't get locked, but you will not be able to play in modern format anymore. So, you know, there's this commitment here, which I don't think people are appreciating, because for the last 2 years, it's been nonstop bots bad, bots this, bots whatever. Go look at the player base right now. Go look at the daily active accounts. I think Matt has done, or Matt and team have done a fantastic job of listening to the community in that regard, understanding the long-term implications of the impact, right, that, you know, bots and extractors have in this ecosystem, and trying to remove as much of them as possible, right? You may not agree with soulbound cards. You may not agree with soulbound rewards. You may not agree with X, Y, and Z. At the end of the day, I still consider this a play-to-earn game. Even if everything becomes soulbound, I would consider this a play-to-earn game, because every game that you win, you earn SPS, and you can sell SPS on the secondary market. I understand it's not the way that it used to be, but we've had to focus in on where the exploits were. And once again, I think Matt and team have done a good job of trying to remove or reduce or disincentivize all of those areas. So again, I'm just saying, like, take a look at where we were 2 years ago. Take a look at where we were a year ago, and ask yourself, is this situation specifically, right, bots and extractions, is that in a better position than it is now? And, you know, I pointed to this in a recent video about SPS. Like, we're not seeing SPS just get sold off every day the way that it used to, right? A lot of the accounts that used to just sell SPS every day are gone. And so now you get a bunch of whales buying in, and the price just sits there. So what happens when the flywheel starts to move and we're not yet at the threshold that, like, the current players are willing and ready to sell? I don't know. You tell me. Could be exciting. Okay, last one here is the fact that the current situation we are in, my perspective on the current situation that we are in, is wholly and completely unsustainable. And what I mean by that is Matt does not seem happy. And Matt, if you ever watch this, I don't think Matt watches these videos, but if he does, Matt, I hope you're in a place, you know, where you're just at peace and are able to, like, not have too much on your plate. Because what I mean by this is not that, like, you know, Matt's just sitting there depressed. He's been very explicit about the fact that he doesn't want to do the CEO role. Matt is a gamer at heart. He is a game designer. He has brought this awesome game to life, right, from scratch. Before the team came in, before the boom came in, this was his baby, right? His and Aggie's baby. And now he's having to, you know, fill out a bunch of paperwork and be in a bunch of meetings where, you know, and I mean no disrespect to the rest of the team. I think the rest of the team is fantastic. But I would argue that a majority of the people here are here because they believe in Matt's vision, right? And I'm not saying that Matt has lost his vision. I'm not saying Matt is, you know, getting tired or burnt out. I mean, maybe he is, right? But the point of what I'm trying to make is that where the situation that we're in right now, with Matt having to take care of all these things, is unsustainable. And my hope, and I think everybody's hope, is that as we get into better times for the game, better times for the game economy, and better times for the company, meaning that, you know, whether it's the market improving, whether it's, you know, a lot more revenue coming in, new players or current players spending, we're able to get a CEO that lets Matt do what Matt does best. Because at this point in time, I don't think it's sustainable. I don't want Matt to be in a position where he's just unhappy and filling out paperwork and sitting in meetings all day. I want Matt to be, as he said, not that I want him to get COVID, but when he got COVID, I want him to be stuck in a room somewhere, happily stuck in a room, designing Land 3.0 and designing guilds, alliances, and designing all these different things for the game, right? That's what I want, because that's where he's at his best. And we just haven't been able, even with all the great things that have happened this past year, we haven't really gotten that from Matt. And if anything, he's had to be somewhat disconnected from a lot of things. And he's even said so in many ways, right? He doesn't make a lot of the cards or have a lot of commentary on the cards. You know, he's not in the day-to-day grind. Like, he leaves that to the team, which, again, shout out to the team. I think the team does a fantastic job of operating and delivering these things. But I want Matt in that mix too, right? Because at the end of the day, this was his and Aggie's vision, right? This is like a lot of the things that people are here for is what he's trying to design. So I want him back in the designer seat. I want him back focus on how do we make Splinterlands, right? Not GLS, not Arcade Colony, but Splinterlands. How do we make this game so freaking amazing, right? And again, maybe that comes from new game modes. Maybe that comes from other areas, right? I genuinely thought when we were branching out into GLS and Arcade Colony, like, I mean, I thought it was great, but there's so many things that we can do within the game economy, right? For example, tower defense. I mean, and again, I'm not even going to comment on tower defense specifically, but let's get to a point where Matt has the time, the energy, the resources to create even more within just the Splinterlands ecosystem, right? Stuff that uses SPS and DEC and brings us new game modes and brings in projects that could potentially be a part of this ecosystem. That is where I get excited about potentially in the future. But in order for us to get there, we need to reach a place that is sustainable from just an employee morale standpoint, right? A Matt's morale standpoint. And at this point, it does feel like not just Matt, but maybe the entire team has put everything into overdrive just to deliver on promises past, and get the game into a place where it can really capitalize during this upcoming bull run, right? Potential bull run, not financial advice. But either way, that's the 5 biggest takeaways, again, from more of like a perspective, philosophical approach for Matt's first year. Again, I want to congratulate Matt on finishing up 1 year. I've been really, again, I know the token prices and I know the asset prices and community sentiment and morale may not reflect it appropriately, but I think if you were to take an honest, objective look at where the game was a year ago versus where the game is now, it is undeniable, in my opinion, that the game, the tokenomics, everything is in a much better position. The reason we're down right now is because the people who didn't believe, the people who wanted to extract value, the people who were X, Y, and Z, they left, right? And I'm not even demonizing them. They left for greener pastures. But I don't know that I'm not even going to say that we're at the bottom, but I will say that everything that I'm looking at now, right? I've made a video about the tokenomics. Everything looks like it's in a much better place. So many sinks have been turned off. SPS inflation has been reduced. Shout out to Clay for that. He's been spearheading a lot, right? But we are just in a much better position. And if the market does take off, if the team finishes and is able to be successful in bringing on new players, we may not go, straight up exponentially. But I'll tell you this, if we just start getting a couple new players here and there that are of the same kind of mindset, conviction, belief of not even the whales, like me, you watching this video, right? Come in and they just want to buy a bunch of cards or hold, 50,000 SPS. We're going to feel that impact. We're going to feel that impact over the next year. And that makes me really excited for what is to come in Matt's year number 2. So that is part 1 of the 5 biggest takeaways. I'll be back with part 2, again, focusing in on the actual changes that were made that I liked or disliked or whatever, just whatever had the biggest impact. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That is all I have for you guys in this video. Otherwise, I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.